Hello, haha. Right, Stockman Pete here, episode number 3. Okay, now look, before we go any further, just to let you all know, this is off the top of my head as we go along. And sometimes the story can repeat, and sometimes I'll go off the track a bit, and there we are, you know. Look, I've got the old sheep shearing vest on. I worked the sheds as a young lad, tar boy. Clip, go the shearers, boys, clip, 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 haha. And when the shearer cut the sheep, and as they did, because there's a lot of sheep, over you'd go with the tar, whack the tar, they'd put a couple of stitches in quick, and you'd whack this tar on, and down the ramp the sheep would go. And the reason was, the tar kept the flies away, because flies blimmin' everywhere, kept the flies away from the sheep, and it was covered in tar, the cut, only be a next couple of stitches, and down the ramp it would go. And I worked in oh no, I'm going off the track of it. I worked in a 12 stand shed, and that was about 80,000 head of sheep at a time. There was 12 shearers in there, and I'd done everything from throwing the fleece to de-dagging it. That's where you go around the side of it and pull the poo off, to taking the fleece up to the managers on the table who would grade it. Then you put it into a big brown Hessian sacks, wall presses, and pressed it down, of memory now, about 450 pound pressure, and you'd sew it up, and that would be a bale of wool. And our sheep shearing says we're quite sorry, because you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you got an old cook in a cook shed, who's usually some right old boy with a bit of fag ash going in your stew, you know. And these shearers, 8 hour day, half-hour break in the morning, afternoon, an hour break at lunch. And their backs, it might have changed by now, I don't know. Their backs are continually bent, so they used to rub the old sheep fat in their backs. There wasn't no fatties there, I tell you then. They were all bending there like that all day shearing, down the whipping side, and this and that. I can't. I did have a go a bit, and I would have liked to have gone into it. And you ask what they call the gun of the shed, and he was the fastest shearer. Could you show us, you know, how to shear a sheep, you know? There was nothing else out there to do. Half the time the radio crackled, you didn't get that. So they'd finish at 5, they'd have a good wash and brush up, something to eat. By 7 o'clock, all done. But of course, they were up early-ish, and it was a really hard day's work. So they were in bed by 8, 9, you know, so, and they used to get paid well. And you can imagine what happened when the lorry would pick them up after 6 or 8 weeks' work and take them into the nearest town. You can imagine the bedlam that went on then, you know, to one of those cold, frosty beers of Reese's or Tours. But they worked hard, and a lot of sheep were shorn. I saw an amazing sight out there once, quite unbelievable really. I saw where the wild pigs were actually grabbing a sheep and pulling it through the railings out to eat, with all the old goannas that used to hang around the stockyards, all just waiting for a feed. And it all went on. There's say 60,000 head of sheep would come in, and you've got to get them up, get them to the shearers. And it was chaotic, and a lot of hard work were going with the old shears going. But good old days, good old things to see. It's probably changed an awful lot by now. Right, okay, that was just that little interlude, as will happen as we go along. Let's get back to the tannery. So there I am at the tannery, done my business there, thanks, got my job. Walking up the road now to Mrs. Adams' boarding house. Well, what a surprise laid in store for me up there. In we went, knocked on the door, and, you know, a bit nervous really, I suppose, but I was so pleased with myself that I'd got a job to start. You know, a nice little suburb here, and I thought, oh, you're doing all right here, doing all right here. And I nearly said my name again, but I'm not one. Anyway, and I thought, doing all right here. And this woman came to the door, and I swear to you, we won't go on to religion, but I swear to you, this woman, the giantess, was about 6'10", 7 foot. She was the biggest woman I've seen from that day to this. And a big woman too, 20 plus odd stone, easily. With a big biddy thing on, this great big wooden spoon, spatula thing she used to carry, and a big bottle of gin. And she used to go through about 2 bottles of gin a day, apparently, and I can well believe it. Anyway, she said, I've had a phone call, she said, and there's a bed here for you if you want it. Now, this was a normal sort of like looking house. In we went, First right was a bedroom and about 12 beds in it. She said, that's yours, the third one along. I thought, oh, lovely. I thought, you know, lots and lots of space here. There must be at least 3 inches between each bed. And she said, and your space for your little suitcase and all this and that is under the bed. That's your space, under the bed, and that's it. And you're about 3 inches away from the next bed. Take it or leave it. I took it. What did I pay in it? I think it was $12.75 a week. And that's full board and with a warning. And I said, thank you, Mrs. Adams, you know, that'll do, mate. I thought just a walk down the road, it's handy. And I got a lecture then about how to stay away from her daughter. A daughter that can't get pregnant. Why she told me she couldn't get pregnant, I don't know. And why she mentioned her in the first place, I don't know. But anyway, it was a funny old boarding house, this. And she had a chap there, but he was funny, like a little ferret running around all the time. I thought, oh my God, anyway. And I'm just going to finish with one story here. Settled into that room all right. The chats were all right. There was a dusky old TV room with glass all over the top. It was an old worn house, shrubbery all round it. Gardens hadn't been looked at too much, you know. Bit of an old porch and veranda and old weldy, and that's the sort of setting it was. But handy for work, as I say. Now, mealtime, there was 15 of us sat down for a mealtime. And she'd only collapsed once that day, and they said that was pretty good for her. And they gave her some water to bring her around. She thought, what the hell was that? Anyway, and in the centre of the dining room table would be great lumps of bread ripped from like a French roll, if you like, bit of butter on the end, on a plate in the centre. And little did I know, first meal, sat down. You had to have your hands under the table, or you copped a whack with the wooden spoon. You didn't want that from her, I'll tell you. And when she hit the table with it, bang, you took your bit of bread. Well, what's wrong in that? Well, her little game was 15 at the table, 14 bits of bread. And of course I missed out for her. I thought, oh, hello, what was my... Oh, you didn't dare say nothing to her, I'll tell you that. Anyway, so next time I was ready and I'd practised. And I'm telling you right now, if Billy the Kid had been sat at that table, he'd have been the slowest gun there. The slowest gun, I'll tell you that for nothing. And you got your hands under this table, and when that spatula hit, you were so quick on the draw, it was unbelievable. I'll tell you what, I never missed out on a bit of bread after that. Ha ha! Someone did, it was never me though, I'll tell you that. Right, I'm going to leave it for there, and we're going to continue on at Mrs. Adams' boarding house. Got a few stories, quite a few stories to tell there. And my old mind just flickered back to the old shearing sets. They were something, you know. The sheep were treated well. Funnily enough, the sheep were treated well. As I say, stitched up, bit of tar on them to stop the flies. They were then doused with a bit of douse for them. They were fed well, watered well, and getting the water to that amount of sheep each time was quite a job, because it's dusty and red hot with dust in them. And then back out they went, and lots of fleeces taken, you know, that's what it was all about. Now, this particular station I worked on, it used to shear 7 times a year. That's how many sheep were on it. 7 times a year. And to try and get those buggers, as I had to, in, I soon learnt when we came to a bridge, you don't herd them across. You go in front of them, and you come back at them, and you herd them the wrong way. And they think, well, we're not having you herding us down the road. And they run round you, and they all go across the bridge. Because they've all beaten you, so they think, you know. But it was snakes, spiders. Anyway, I'm divulging off. I'll get back to this station later on, and my encounter with about 200 wild pig. Oh my God. Anyway, right, okay, that's it for this week. Next Friday, we hope we'll step up and we'll carry on with the boarding house. And Jenny that can't get pregnant, and the London Underground Union rep that knew it all. Or did he? Ha ha! Stockman Pete, till next week. Bye bye.